But yeah, I mean, definitely I've been extremely discouraged by a lot of what I've seen in religion, and even recently wrote an article that Sojourners magazine published and sent it to a couple friends of mine that I used to go to church with, and one of the responses I got was, "I don't see what the big deal with this video is, can you explain it to me?" So there's definitely a lot of frustration, but and there were times where I felt like it wasn't even worth an effort, or just wanted to kind of renounce everything I stood for. But as I thought back to it, what has led me to make a lot of the decisions I had has been to stand up for what I initially believed, and what I have a disagreement is what it's been twisted into. And so fortunately, I have started talking about religion more and have connected with a lot of really great groups, especially when I did my trip across the country. The Catholic worker movement has really inspired me, just how they're able to not only address things kind of on a larger issue, but also connect it to what's going on a community level. Another example is that I've become friends with a man named Shane Claiborne, who wanted to put his faith more into practice, so he went to India to live with Mother Teresa for a few months, and now has a community in Philadelphia, and is also writing books about how what religion in America is teaching does not line up with much of the Bible and with how the early church practiced. So yeah, it's definitely hard to see sometimes, but there are definitely groups out there, and I have kind of regained a lot of that encouragement that I lost.
I just want to add quickly, when you come back from war, and Josh would probably second this, that not only do you struggle with the trauma of war, but you have to cope with a kind of existential crisis in that you see the hypocrisy of all of the institutions, not just the religious institutions, but the government, the school system, the media, all of which sell you what you then know to be a lie. That we are a virtuous nation, that we are guaranteed victory, that God is on our side. Because when you come back from war, you understand the capacity we have for evil. And that existential crisis is one that in some sense renders you forever a kind of outcast. I actually graduated from seminary. I have a Master of Divinity. I was not ordained, and I grew up in the church. My father was a minister. And as critical as I am of religious institutions, and as deeply as I grasp their complicity in giving a kind of ethical imprint to the unethical, at the same time, there have been religious figures inspired by their faith. William Sloane Coffin, Rabbi Abraham Heschel, of course, Dr. King, who we mentioned earlier. I would even argue Malcolm X, who have remained fast to that kind of moral commitment. But of course, that has put them in conflict, and in many cases pushed them outside of the very religious institutions themselves. So I think that Josh's connection with the Catholic worker movement, a movement I admire very much, Dorothy Day's kind of Christian anarchism probably comes as close as I come to having a belief system, means that they're there, but they're not mainstream, and they're not given a voice within the society because, of course, what they're doing by, I think, remaining true to their religious convictions, if they were given a voice, is exposing high-profile religious leaders and pundits and moral voices as a fraud. And so they are, like all prophets, shut outside, but they are there, they do exist.
But to the extent that religious institutions or non-religious institutions, although to many people this is almost a definition of religious institutions, teach that there's some higher authority, that you cannot understand the logic of what you must blindly obey, I think is the most toxic, dangerous, destructive habit of thought. And this is what you need in the military to do evil, and this is the attitude that many have to political parties as well. So the answer is to be independent and stop blind obedience. And the answer to what you do with your Congress member is you tell them, "I will vote against you if you vote for more war money. I don't care what party you're in, what religion you're in, or whose authority you speak from."